The village of Ebele was nestled in a verdant valley, surrounded by hills that cradled the land like a protective embrace. Its people lived simple, harmonious lives, their days dictated by the rise and fall of the sun and the rhythms of the earth. But beneath the tranquility of this peaceful village, a secret lay buried, one that would one day erupt in a storm of sorrow and suffering. Ebele's prosperity was believed to be tied to the river that snaked through its heart, a river worshipped as the living spirit of the goddess Olokun. Olokun, the goddess of wealth, fertility, and the deep mysteries of the water, was revered with a mix of awe and fear. Her moods were as changeable as the river itself, sometimes calm and generous, other times turbulent and destructive. The people of Ebele knew that to anger Olokun was to court disaster. But one couple, in their arrogance and desire, had forgotten this sacred rule. Okoye and Nneka were the most beautiful pair in Ebele. Their beauty was the subject of songs and whispers, and many a young maiden and lad had gazed longingly at them, wishing to be their chosen one. But Okoye and Nneka had eyes only for each other. When they married, it was said that even the skies wept tears of joy, so perfect was their union. However, Okoye and Nneka's love was not without flaw. Nneka, proud and fierce, often bragged that her beauty was a gift from the gods themselves, one that would never fade. Okoye, equally vain, believed that his strength and handsomeness made him invincible. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, a pair that seemed almost godlike in their perfection. But the gods, as the people of Ebele knew too well, do not take kindly to those who think themselves equal to the divine. One fateful day, Nneka, heavy with child, went to the river to perform the sacred rites that would ensure safe delivery. It was customary for pregnant women to offer gifts to Olokun, asking for her blessing and protection. But Nneka, in her arrogance, saw no need for such rituals. She believed that her beauty and the strength of her love with Okoye were protection enough. As she stood by the river, the waters shimmered with an eerie light, as if the goddess herself was watching. Nneka, oblivious to the signs, spoke to the river with a voice full of pride. Olokun, goddess of the river, she called out, "I am Nneka, the most beautiful woman in all of Ebele. My husband, Okoye, is the strongest man. We do not need your protection, for we are blessed by the gods themselves." The river's surface rippled, disturbed by an unseen force. A cold wind swept through the valley, chilling Nneka to the bone. But she was too proud to be afraid, too certain of her own invincibility to see the danger she had invited. Suddenly, the waters surged upward, forming a towering wave that loomed over Nneka. From within the wave, a figure emerged, a woman of extraordinary beauty, with skin as dark and smooth as the riverbed, and eyes that glowed with an otherworldly light. It was Olokun, the river goddess, and she was not pleased. "Foolish mortal," Olokun's voice was like the rush of the river, powerful and overwhelming. "You dare to challenge the gods? You think yourself beyond my reach." Nneka, finally realizing her mistake, fell to her knees, trembling. "Goddess, forgive me," she pleaded. "I meant no disrespect." But Olokun was not swayed by her words. "Your pride has angered me, Nneka. You have forgotten your place, and for that, you will pay dearly." With a wave of her hand, Olokun cast a curse upon the unborn child within Nneka's womb. "This child will bear the burden of your sins," the goddess declared. "She will be cursed with desires that cannot be tamed, forced to seek the company of men without rest or satisfaction. She will know no peace, no love, until the day she finds a man who sees her for who she truly is and not what she is cursed to be." Nneka wept, but it was too late. The goddess dissolved back into the river, leaving Nneka alone with her terror. She returned to the village, her heart heavy with the knowledge of the doom she had brought upon her child. When the time came, Nneka gave birth to a daughter. The child was beautiful, with her mother's features and her father's strength. But the villagers whispered among themselves, sensing the dark shadow that hung over the girl. They named her Adaora, meaning daughter of all, for they knew that she would touch many lives, though not in the way they had hoped. As Adaora grew, it became clear that the curse was not a mere threat. By the time she reached adolescence, she was already struggling with the overwhelming desires that plagued her. No man, young or old, could resist her charms, and no matter how hard she tried to control herself, she found herself falling into the arms of every man she encountered. The villagers of Ebele shunned her, believing her to be possessed by an evil spirit. Even her parents, racked with guilt, could not bring themselves to look at her. Adaora's life became a living nightmare, a relentless cycle of shame and regret. Yet, despite the misery the curse brought, Adaora's beauty and allure only grew stronger with each passing year. Men from far and wide came to Ebele, drawn by tales of the irresistible maiden, who could never refuse a man's advances. They saw her as nothing more than a conquest, a prize to be won, and none cared for the pain and sorrow that lay behind her enchanting smile. But Adaora was not blind to her curse. She knew that her desires were not natural, that they were the result of her mother's hubris. She longed for a life where she could choose whom to love, where her body was her own and not a plaything for others. Yet, no matter how hard she tried, she could not escape the grip of Olokun's curse. One day, in a moment of despair, Adaora fled to the river, the very place where her fate had been sealed. She stood by the water's edge, tears streaming down her face, and cried out to Olokun. "Goddess of the river, have you not punished me enough?" she wept. "I am but a vessel for the desires of others, with no will of my own. Please, show me mercy, and lift this curse from my soul." But the river remained silent, its waters calm and unyielding. Adaora fell to her knees, her cries echoing across the valley, but there was no answer. Olokun's curse was unbreakable, and Adaora knew that she was doomed to live out her days in torment. For years, Adaora lived in isolation, feared and shunned by the people of Ebele. She became a ghostly figure, haunting the village, but never truly belonging. The men who came to her left as quickly as they arrived, their desires sated, but leaving Adaora emptier than before. It was during this time of darkness that a stranger came to Ebele, a man unlike any other Adaora had ever met. His name was Obinna, a traveler who had wandered far and wide, seeking knowledge and wisdom. He was not drawn to Ebele by tales of Adaora's beauty, but by a desire to understand the mysteries of the world. When Obinna first saw Adaora, he was struck not by her beauty, but by the sadness in her eyes. He approached her, not with lust, but with genuine concern. "Who are you, and why do you carry such sorrow in your heart?" he asked her. Adaora, surprised by his gentle tone, told him of her curse and the life of misery it had brought her. She expected him to laugh, or dismiss her story as foolish superstition, as so many others had. But Obinna did neither. Instead, he listened intently, his eyes filled with compassion. "You are not to blame for what has happened to you," he said softly. "The gods may have cursed you, but that does not define who you are. I see a woman who is strong, who has endured so much pain, and yet still hopes for something better." Adaora was stunned by his words. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. For the first time in her life, she felt seen, not as a cursed being, but as a person. Obinna stayed in Ebele, becoming Adaora's friend and confidant. He did not seek to possess her, nor did he judge her for her past. Instead, he spent hours talking with her, helping her to understand that her worth was not tied to the curse that had been placed upon her. "You are more than this curse," he told her one day as they sat by the river. "And I believe that we can find a way to lift it, together." Adaora, who had long given up hope of ever being free, found herself believing in Obinna's words. For the first time, She allowed herself to hope that her life could be different.